Hi, okay, so I'm Emily, and if you're watching this, it's probably because something crazy happened last night. Something I still can't believe actually happened. I don't even know where to start, but you need to hear this. I stared at the blinking red recording light on my camera like it was a tiny, judgmental eye. My fingers trembled slightly as I reached out to adjust the lens. I'd planned to make a fun little vlog tonight. Just me, a glass of wine, maybe a funny story about my week. But that wasn't what this was anymore. Not tonight. Tonight it was different, dangerous, scary, and honestly, kind of humiliating. If you had asked me a few hours ago, I would have said I was just another 29-year-old woman living alone in the city, with a steady job, a modest apartment, and a golden retriever named Cooper, who was arguably the best roommate I'd ever had. Safe, comfortable, predictable. But none of that mattered last night because last night, I made a mistake, a big one. The kind of mistake that makes you question everything about yourself. It started with a text from Lisa, my friend from college who somehow always manages to drag me into situations I later regret. "Hey Em, big party tonight. You have to come. Everyone's going to be there. You know you need this. Trust me." I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. I should have said no. I really should have. I had already had a long week, stressful deadlines, an argument with my mom, and a breakup that was still raw in the corners of my chest. I should have stayed home, poured myself some tea, and watched reruns of something comforting. But instead, I typed, "Sure. Why not?" That's the thing about me. I say why not when I should say no. I chase the distraction instead of the calm. And that night, it almost killed me. By the time I got to Lisa's place, the party was already in full swing. Music thumped so hard my chest felt like it might explode. People were shouting over it, laughing, spilling drinks, taking selfies with reckless enthusiasm. I tried to smile, tried to slip into the scene like I belonged there. But the truth was I didn't, not really. I felt like a ghost wandering through someone else's life, and then someone handed me a drink, strong, cheap, and dangerous. I told myself I would only have one glass, just enough to feel the stress melt away. But that's never how it works, is it? One glass always turns into two into three, and before I knew it, the room was spinning, my words slurring, my laughter too loud, my body too warm. I barely remember the ride home. Lisa insisted on driving me, even though I could swear I was managing okay. I sat in the back seat, staring at the city lights blurring past, my stomach churning, my mind floating somewhere between giggles and regret. Cooper didn't know anything about this yet. He had no idea that I was about to make a decision that would put both of us in danger. When I finally stumbled into my apartment, the smell of stale air and old carpet hit me like a wall. I fumbled with my keys, trying to keep my balance, my heart hammering. I didn't even notice Cooper at first, which looking back was my first mistake. Where have you been?" His soft whine barely registered as I collapsed onto the edge of my bed, throwing my bag onto the floor. I kicked off my shoes, kicked off my jacket, and, I don't know, I think I tried to disappear into my blankets, pretending the world didn't exist anymore, pretending I could erase the poor choices I'd made in the last 12 hours. Cooper sat there for a moment, tilting his head, studying me like he always did when I was acting weird. Then he did something that still makes my chest tighten when I think about it. He jumped up onto the bed, nudged my arm with his nose, and curled up beside me. His eyes, wide and trusting, seemed to say, "I'm here. Don't leave me." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I was too drunk, too tired, too stupid. I closed my eyes, hoping he would leave, hoping I could sink into a safe oblivion. But he didn't leave. He stayed, nudging my hand again and again, whining softly, pressing his warm body against mine. I tried to push him away. Go lie down, Cooper. I don't want you here." But he refused. And for reasons I didn't understand then, something in me, some tiny flicker of awareness buried under the alcohol and shame, noticed that his insistence wasn't about attention. It was something else, something urgent. I fell asleep curled up with him against my chest, my head spinning, my stomach sick, my body heavy with guilt and exhaustion. When I woke up, it was silent. The sun was creeping through the blinds, golden and cruel, reminding me of all the things I had ignored the night before. My head throbbed. My mouth was dry. I felt empty. And yet Cooper was still there, lying beside me, tail gently thumping against the bed, eyes soft but expectant. He didn't scold me. He didn't bark. He just waited. It took me a few moments to notice the smell. Faint, metallic, weird. Something was off. My stomach lurched in a way that wasn't just hangover. I stumbled out of bed, Cooper padding along behind me, sniffing like a tiny, furry detective. That's when I saw it. The stove. I had left it on. Just a tiny crack. I hadn't meant to. I had just been sloppy, drunk, careless. But even a tiny crack can be dangerous. My heart froze, my mouth dry, my hands shaking uncontrollably. And then I remembered Cooper. The way he had nudged me in the night. The way he had refused to leave. He had known, somehow. Somehow he had felt the danger I couldn't see. He had stayed, not just out of love, but out of instinct. Tears blurred my vision as I lunged forward, twisting the knobs off, fumbling until the gas stopped hissing. I sank to the floor, shaking, crying, and laughing all at once, with Cooper's head resting on my lap like nothing had happened. I grabbed my camera. I needed to record this. I needed to tell someone, anyone, what had happened, even if only for me to understand it. And that's how this story started. Not at a party, not with friends, not with wine. It started with a golden retriever who refused to leave my side when I was at my lowest, who saved me without knowing it, who loved me in a way that humans often can't. I look at Cooper now, lying beside me, head tilted, tail wagging softly, like he knows I'm talking about him, and I realize something important. He didn't just come into my room that night. He came into my life in a way I never deserved, and maybe, just maybe, he was the reason I'm still here to tell this story. I don't know why I drank so much that night. I don't know why I thought the party was a good idea. I don't know why I often make choices that hurt me, but I do know this. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have woken up this morning. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have had a chance to start over, and I don't think I've ever been more grateful for anything in my life. So, that's where it begins. My night of mistakes, my near disaster, my awakening, courtesy of a golden retriever who refused to leave me alone. And I promise you, this is just the beginning. I woke up to the faint smell of something off. Not the usual lingering scent of my apartment. Not the faint aroma of coffee from the cafe downstairs. Something metallic. Something sharp. My head pounded like a drum in a parade, and every fiber of my body ached. My eyes fluttered open, and for a split second, I didn't know where I was. Then I remembered last night. The party, the drinks, my reckless decision to go, and, of course, Cooper. He was sitting right next to me, eyes wide, ears perked, tail still lightly thumping against the bed frame. He had that look, the one that makes you feel simultaneously guilty and protected. Like he knew everything, like he had been waiting for me to wake up, silently judging me, silently protecting me. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the fog. My body screamed at me to stay under the covers, to hide from the world, but Cooper nudged my hand again, and that little push was enough to force me upright. That's when I noticed the smell again. Stronger, metallic, sharp, terrifying. I froze. My stomach turned. I scanned the apartment and my eyes landed on the kitchen. My heart stopped. The stove. The realization hit me like a freight train. I hadn't turned it off. I had left it on, the knob slightly twisted. That small crack, that tiny leak, it could have been catastrophic. And for hours, I'd been blissfully unaware, asleep in my bed. Cooper, I whispered, voice trembling. Did you? He tilted his head, wagged his tail slightly, and nudged my hand again. He didn't speak in human words, but somehow I understood. He had tried to warn me. He had stayed by my side, insisting, nudging, refusing to leave. He had sensed the danger I couldn't. I scrambled out of bed, every step wobbly. My limbs felt heavy, my stomach sick. I didn't care about anything else. The hangover, the embarrassment, the shame. Nothing mattered except the gas leaking into my apartment and the dog beside me who had somehow known. I got to the kitchen and twisted the knobs. One by one, My hands shook uncontrollably. The hissing sound stopped. Silence. My body sagged against the counter, tears streaming down my face. You saved me? I choked out. You actually saved me. Cooper barked softly like he understood. Like he knew this wasn't just relief. It was gratitude, guilt, awe, all wrapped into one messy, overwhelming package. I sank to the floor, clutching my head, my sobs echoing through the apartment. I wanted to laugh, I wanted to cry, I wanted to scream. The reality of what had almost happened hit me like a tidal wave. One stupid decision, one night of drinking could have ended everything. And the only reason I woke up alive was because of him. I didn't sleep for the rest of the morning. I just sat there on the floor, Cooper curled up beside me, staring at him as if trying to memorize every detail of his golden fur, every expression, every little tilt of his head. He was more than a dog. He was my guardian, my conscience, my lifeline. By noon, I realized I had to tell someone. My hands still shook as I picked up my camera. I didn't know if I could even speak, but I pressed record anyway, because I needed someone, anyone, to understand what had happened. Hi, it's me again, I began, voice shaky. So, something crazy happened last night. Something I never expected. Cooper, my dog, he saved me. I don't even know how to explain it. I took a shaky breath, trying to organize the chaos in my head. I was drunk. Very drunk. I went to a party I shouldn't have. I got home, collapsed. And I didn't notice the stove. I didn't notice the gas leaking into my apartment. I didn't notice how close I was to... I don't even want to think about it. But Cooper, he stayed with me. He nudged me. He refused to leave. He saved me. I paused, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill over. My voice quivered. I think he knew something I didn't. Somehow he just knew. I ended the video, hands shaking, tears streaming down my face. I didn't post it immediately. I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I sat with Cooper. I hugged him tight, feeling the warmth of his body, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, the comfort of his presence. I whispered over and over again, "You saved me, Cooper. You really saved me." The day passed in a haze. I barely ate. I barely moved. But Cooper never left my side. Every time I blinked, he was there. Every time I reached for something, he nudged me gently. Every time I thought I was alone, he reminded me that I wasn't. By evening, I decided to take a walk. I needed fresh air, a break from the constant weight of my own thoughts. Cooper bounded beside me, tail wagging, ears flopping with every step. People on the street smiled at him. It was impossible not to. And for a moment, I let myself feel something other than fear and shame. I felt grateful. We walked in silence for a while, the city around us buzzing with life that seemed distant, irrelevant. I thought about last night, about the choices I had made, about how close I had come to something I didn't want to name. And I realized something terrifying. I couldn't rely on luck again. Not like that. Not ever. Cooper stopped mid-step and looked up at me, head tilted. It was the same look he had given me in the bedroom, the look that had warned me without words. And in that moment, I understood him completely. He wasn't just a dog. He wasn't just a pet. He was a teacher, a guardian, a reminder of what mattered. I knelt down and hugged him tight. "I promise I'll do better," I whispered. "I won't put us in danger again. I'll be more careful. I'll try to be worthy of you." He licked my face once, softly, and wagged his tail. That was all I needed. That was enough. When we got back to the apartment, I made a decision. I needed to face what I had done. Not just for me, but for Cooper. I started by cleaning up the apartment, checking every appliance, every corner, making sure everything was safe. It felt ridiculous at first, like I was overreacting. But Cooper stayed with me through it all, watching, nudging, reminding me that vigilance was love. By nightfall, exhaustion finally caught up with me. I collapsed on the couch, Cooper curling up beside me once again. I didn't need blankets. I didn't need comfort from anything else. I had him, and that was enough. I pulled out my phone and finally posted the video I had recorded earlier. I titled it, "My dog saved my life when I was drunk. You won't." "Believe what happened!" The first comments started rolling in almost immediately. People called Cooper a hero. People told me I was lucky. People shared their own stories about pets who had saved them, comforted them, or loved them unconditionally. But some comments hurt. "You're irresponsible. How could you let this happen? You don't deserve him." Those words cut deep, gnawed at the fragile sense of relief I had built up throughout the day. I looked at Cooper, lying next to me, golden fur shining softly in the lamplight. He didn't care about the comments. He didn't care about the judgment. He cared about me, and that was the most important thing. I hugged him tightly, resting my forehead against his head. "They don't understand," I whispered. "But you do, and that's all that matters." As I drifted to sleep that night, I made a vow. I would never take this gift for granted. I would never put us in danger again. I would honor him, not just as a dog, but as a guardian, a friend, and the one being in this world who truly saved me. And somewhere deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. This was only the start of a journey of trust, of love, of learning to survive not just in the world but in my own reckless choices. Cooper had shown me the way, and I wasn't about to waste it. The morning after I posted the video, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. Cooper lay beside me, his golden fur warm and comforting, his head resting on my lap. I hadn't realized how tense I'd been until I felt him there, steady and real. I picked up my phone with trembling hands, expecting maybe a handful of likes, a few supportive comments. Instead, it was a storm. Notifications flooded my screen like a tidal wave, each one pinging a nerve I didn't know I had left. The first messages were everything I had hoped for. "OMG, Cooper is a hero. You're so lucky." This made me cry. I felt tears blur my vision. My little apartment suddenly seemed brighter. Cooper nudged my hand as if saying, "See, you're okay." But then, it started to turn. It began subtly, with a few negative comments hiding under the flood of love. "Irresponsible. This is dangerous behavior. You shouldn't be drinking like that." At first, I tried to ignore them. I told myself, it's just the internet. People are dramatic. But as the day went on, the comments grew sharper. "How could you endanger your dog? Some people don't deserve pets. I hope you learn the hard way." I froze, staring at the screen. My chest tightened. My throat burned. I hadn't thought about it like that. Not really. I hadn't realized just how close I had come to disaster. I'd focused on Cooper saving me, on the miraculous loyalty and instinct of my golden retriever, but the weight of my own recklessness, it was undeniable. Cooper, sensing my rising panic, nudged my hand again. I buried my face in his fur. I know, I whispered, voice breaking. "I messed up. I know I did." The comments didn't stop. They multiplied. People on forums, in social media threads, even strangers on Twitter were dissecting my story. They debated whether I was a bad owner, a careless human, someone unworthy of love. And while part of me wanted to fight back, explain myself, defend my choices, another part of me just wanted to crawl under the bed and disappear. I spent the entire afternoon glued to my phone, reading, scrolling, crying, laughing sometimes out of disbelief. Cooper never left my side. He stayed pressed against me, reminding me that not all judgment mattered, that some love was unwavering, constant, real. And then it happened. The viral moment. Somehow, I don't even know how, a major pet safety channel had picked up my story. The video had been shared thousands of times in just a few hours. My subscriber count skyrocketed. Comments poured in like a relentless storm, some praising Cooper as a hero, some condemning me as reckless, some debating whether anyone should ever drink at all. I felt my chest tighten again. The adoration was intoxicating, but the criticism, it cut deeper. My heart raced. I wanted to hide. I wanted to apologize to Cooper for ever putting him in danger, for being so blind, so careless. By evening, I sat on the floor of my apartment, phone in one hand, Cooper in the other. The world outside my tiny apartment didn't matter. The accolades didn't matter. The criticism didn't matter. What mattered was him, my dog, the being who had nudged me awake, who had saved me, who had loved me when I couldn't even love myself. But I also realized something terrifying. The world had seen me at my lowest, had seen the part of me I tried to hide, the part that drank too much, that went to parties she shouldn't, that almost endangered herself and the one being who mattered most. And now there was no going back. Over the next few days, I tried to regain control. I responded to some of the supportive comments, thanking people for their kind words. I ignored the cruel ones. I made sure Cooper got extra walks, extra treats, extra love. But no matter what I did, the criticism lingered like a shadow. And then, one afternoon, I received a private message that made my stomach drop. "You're lucky your dog saved you this time. Next time, who knows? People like you shouldn't have pets. Maybe you need to learn the hard way." I felt my knees weaken. I held Cooper tightly, burying my face in his fur, wishing the words would vanish. I thought about the night before, about the gas, about the danger, about how close we had come to disaster. And I realized, no matter what the world said, I could never take that night back. I could never undo the fear, the shame, the realization of how fragile life really is. That night, I sat with Cooper on the couch, blanket wrapped around both of us. I whispered over and over, as if repeating it enough times could make it true. "I will do better. I will never put us in danger again. I promise. I swear it." Cooper leaned into me, resting his head on my chest, and I imagined him understanding every word. He didn't need me to be perfect. He just needed me to care, and that was something I could give him, something I could finally start giving myself. Over the next week, I started making changes. I cut down on drinking. I started cooking more at home. I made sure every appliance was turned off, every lock was checked, every potential danger eliminated. And through it all, Cooper was my anchor. He reminded me with every nudge, every wag of his tail, every quiet presence that love wasn't about perfection. It was about commitment, care, and being there when it mattered. I also realized something else. The criticism, as painful as it was, had value too. It forced me to reflect. It forced me to acknowledge my mistakes. And it forced me to grow. I didn't want to hide behind excuses anymore. I wanted to be accountable. For myself, for Cooper, for the life I was lucky enough to still have. And slowly, things started to shift. The positive comments outweighed the negative ones. People began sharing their own stories of pets who had saved them, who had comforted them, who had loved them unconditionally. I began responding to these messages, connecting with people who understood the unique bond between human and dog. It felt healing. One evening, I sat in front of the camera again, Cooper curled up beside me, and I recorded a follow-up video. I didn't script it. I just spoke from the heart. Hi, everyone. It's Emily again. I want to say thank you. Thank you for all the love, for all the support, and also, thank you for the criticism. It's made me reflect. It's made me realize just how lucky I am. Lucky to have Cooper. Lucky to be alive. Lucky to have a second chance. And I promise, I will honor that chance. I will honor him. I will be better. For both of us. I uploaded the video and watched as the first comments rolled in. This time, they weren't just about the danger, or the drinking, or the mistakes. They were about love, growth, recovery, and the unbreakable bond between a human and her dog. And for the first time in days, I felt a sense of peace. But even with the growth, the gratitude, the lessons learned, there was an underlying tension I couldn't shake. I had survived last night because of Cooper. I had been judged by the world because of my actions. And I knew, deep down, that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test my resolve, my patience, and my commitment to change. The internet never sleeps. And neither does life. And as I looked down at Cooper, eyes bright and loyal, I realized something that would stay with me forever. No matter what the world said, no matter what mistakes I made, no matter how much fear or guilt I carried, he was my constant, my reminder, my reason, and he had already saved me once. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but I did know one thing. I would never forget the lesson he taught me. I would never forget the night he stayed, the night he nudged, the night he saved me. And somehow, against the storm of criticism and doubt, that was enough. Because love, the kind that waits, that stays, that saves, is stronger than fear, stronger than shame, stronger than the harshest comment on the internet. And Cooper embodied that love in every soft, golden strand of fur, in every warm, steady heartbeat, in every unwavering gaze. That night, as I finally fell asleep, I held him close, whispering promises I intended to keep. And for the first time since the party, I felt hope. Hope that I could be better. Hope that I could grow. Hope that the bond between me and Cooper was stronger than anything the world could throw at us. And in that quiet moment, I knew that our story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. It had been months since that first terrifying night. Months since Cooper had nudged me awake. Months since the world had judged me. Months since I had promised myself I would never put us in danger again. And for a while, I had kept that promise. I had reduced my drinking. I had started cooking more at home. I double-checked the stove, the locks, the windows. I even began journaling my thoughts, small steps but meaningful ones. Cooper was always there, loyal, comforting, a silent witness to my slow but steady progress. But life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. It started with my job. I had been working at the marketing agency for 3 years, and while it had its perks, it was high pressure, demanding, exhausting. Deadlines piled up like storm clouds, and I felt like I was barely keeping my head above water. Then, one evening, my boss called me into the office and delivered the news I had feared but somehow expected: layoffs. My position was being eliminated. I walked home in a daze, every step heavier than the last. The city lights blurred. The sounds of traffic became distant, meaningless. I felt a tightness in my chest I hadn't felt before, a mixture of fear, shame, and despair. I opened my apartment door and dropped my bag without thinking. Cooper, sensing my distress, came bounding toward me. His tail wagged, but it wasn't the playful greeting I had seen 1,000 times. It was tentative, concerned. He nudged my hand, pressed against me, and whimpered softly. I didn't respond. I didn't even look at him. I just slumped against the wall, sliding down to the floor. The apartment seemed enormous and empty at the same time. I felt hollow, lost, incapable of facing anything. And then the craving hit, the one I had fought so hard to resist, the one that had almost destroyed me months ago. The craving to numb the pain, to escape reality, to hide from the fear and shame. I went to the kitchen. I opened the cabinet where I used to keep wine. I hesitated, fingers trembling. I told myself I deserved it. Just this once, just tonight. 1 glass wouldn't hurt, but of course, 1 glass never stayed as 1 glass. Before I knew it, I was drinking. Fast. recklessly, desperately. I told myself it was temporary, that it was just tonight, that it wouldn't matter. But deep down I knew exactly how dangerous I was being, and yet I couldn't stop. Cooper stayed nearby, his eyes tracking my every move. He whined, nudged my hand, sat at my feet as if to remind me, "I'm here. You're not alone." But I didn't see him. I was lost in the fog of alcohol, in the spiral of my own despair. By the time I realized what I was doing, I had consumed far too much. My head spun violently. My limbs refused to obey. I stumbled toward my bedroom, trying to make it to the safety of my bed, but the room tilted around me like a ship caught in a storm. Cooper followed closely. He barked once, sharply, like a warning. I barely noticed. Then in the haze I heard it, a subtle but unmistakable sound. A scraping, a snap. My heart seized. I hadn't realized how close I had come to danger, but Cooper had. I turned, finally focusing on him. He was stuck. His collar had caught on the doorframe as he tried to squeeze into the bedroom with me. He was struggling, trapped, and his eyes were wide with fear. A fear I hadn't expected to feel. Panic overtook me. Every bit of alcohol-induced haze evaporated instantly. My stomach dropped. My chest tightened. My legs trembled as I lunged forward to free him. "Cooper, hold still! Hold still!" I cried, fumbling with the collar. He whimpered, pulling back instinctively, making it harder to free him. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I managed to untangle him. He bolted to the other side of the room, shaking off the collar, tail wagging nervously, but eyes still locked on me. I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. I was shaking, not from the alcohol this time, but from the fear, from the guilt, from the sheer realization of how close we had come to disaster. You almost got hurt," I whispered, voice trembling. "And I almost let it happen. Again. I almost lost you." Cooper approached cautiously, nudging my hand, pressing his head against my lap. His eyes were soft, forgiving, but I could see the confusion and worry in them. He had saved me once before, and now he had survived my recklessness again. I wrapped my arms around him, holding him tightly, whispering apologies over and over. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I almost gave up. But I won't, I promise. I won't ever put you in danger again." Hours passed. I stayed on the floor with him, holding him, rocking slightly, until the tremors of fear and guilt subsided enough for me to think. That night, I made another promise, not just to him, but to myself. I couldn't rely on luck anymore. I couldn't afford to be careless. I couldn't let despair or fear dictate my actions. Cooper's loyalty had saved me twice now. I had to honor that. I had to change. The next morning, I woke with a pounding headache, a sense of shame heavier than any hangover I had ever experienced. Cooper sat beside me, calm, patient, waiting for me to make the next move. I realized then that his presence was more than comfort. It was accountability. It was a reminder of what mattered most. He didn't care about my failures or my drinking or the mistakes I had made. He cared that I survived, that I learned, that I tried. I took out my camera again, my hands still shaking, and recorded another video. This one was raw, unpolished, emotional. "Hi, it's Emily. I messed up again. I thought I was stronger than my habits. I thought I had control. But last night, I almost gave up. And I almost put Cooper in danger. Again, I can't believe it. I can't believe how close we came. But he stayed. He stayed with me, even when I didn't deserve it. He saved me again. And I have to do better. I will do better." I posted the video, hands trembling, heart racing. I didn't know if anyone would understand. I didn't know if I could forgive myself. But I knew one thing. Cooper's love had given me another chance, and I wasn't going to waste it. Over the following weeks, I doubled down on my efforts. I sought help for my drinking. I created a structured routine. I spent more time outdoors with Cooper, longer walks, more play, more connection. I started therapy, talking about the feelings I had been running from, the fears I had been ignoring. And Cooper? He was there for every step, every triumph, every setback. That night, the night I almost gave up, had changed me. It had shown me the fragility of life, the power of love, and the responsibility that came with it. Cooper hadn't just been a witness. He had been a guardian, a teacher, a mirror reflecting the choices I needed to make. And as I watched him sleep peacefully beside me, tail twitching softly, I realized something profound. He didn't just save my life physically. He saved it emotionally, spiritually. He reminded me that even in our darkest moments, there is hope, there is love, there is a reason to keep trying. That night became a turning point. A night of fear transformed into a night of commitment. A night of near disaster transformed into a night of clarity. Cooper had shown me the path. Now it was my job to follow it. I hugged him tightly, whispering one last promise before sleep took me. I won't fail you again. I'll be stronger. I'll be better. I'll honor you, always. And in the quiet, with his warm body pressed against mine, I knew we were ready to face whatever came next. Together. It had been a year since that night. The night Cooper had nudged me awake. The night he had saved me twice. The night I almost gave up on myself entirely. Sitting here in my apartment now, the sunlight streaming through the windows, I sometimes still can't believe how far we've come. Cooper is older now. A little slower when he runs, a little grayer around his muzzle. But his eyes are the same. Loyal, bright, and unwavering. They still have that way of looking at me like he knows everything. Like he understands every fear, every mistake, every triumph. And the truth is, he does. Over the past year, I've learned to respect him in ways I never did before. He's more than a pet. He's my guardian, my teacher, my mirror. Every time I falter, he reminds me. Every time I doubt myself, he anchors me. And every time I think I'm alone, he's there, waiting, loving, saving me in ways I can't always explain. After my last relapse, the night I almost gave up, I made some serious changes. I sought help for my drinking. I went to therapy, confronting the fear, shame, and anxiety I had buried under a haze of alcohol and avoidance. I started documenting our journey together, not just for myself, but for others who might need to see that recovery is possible. That mistakes don't define you, and that love, even the love of a dog, can be life-changing. My YouTube channel grew. Slowly at first, then rapidly. People shared their own stories of pets saving them, of recovery, of finding hope in the darkest places. Cooper became an icon, not because he did anything flashy, but because of the unwavering loyalty and love he represented. He had saved me, yes. But more than that, he had inspired others to recognize the value of being there for someone, in any small or big way. And through it all, I realized something important. Life doesn't always give you a clear path. It doesn't always protect you from your own mistakes, but it does give you moments. Moments like Cooper's nudges, moments of clarity, moments where you realize what matters most. And if you're willing to pay attention, those moments can teach you everything you need to know. There were still hard days, of course. Days when I felt the old cravings, the old doubts. Days when I questioned whether I was enough, whether I had really changed. But then I would look at Cooper lying nearby and remember that night, the night he had stayed with me, the night he had saved me from myself, the night that had forced me to see the value of life, the value of love. It's funny how small gestures can mean everything. Cooper doesn't speak words, doesn't scold or lecture. He just exists. And in that existence, he teaches patience, responsibility, empathy, and unconditional love. I've started calling him my guardian angel with fur, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. 1 year later, I'm healthier, more grounded, and more grateful than I ever thought possible. I've rebuilt my career in a way that aligns with my values. I've strengthened my relationships with family and friends. And most importantly, I've rebuilt my relationship with myself. And yet, there's one thing that hasn't changed. Cooper still nudges me in the middle of the night sometimes. Sometimes I wake up to him staring at me intently, or pawing at the blanket, or resting his head on my chest. And every single time my heart skips a beat, because I know, even after all this time, even after all the lessons learned, he's still watching out for me, still protecting me, still reminding me how fragile life can be, and how precious it is. I often wonder what would have happened if I hadn't had him. If I hadn't been drunk that night, if I hadn't almost given up, if I hadn't learned to see love in the simplest, purest form, the thought terrifies me. But then I look at him, his golden fur catching the sunlight, tail wagging softly, and I realize something else. It doesn't matter what might have been. What matters is that he's here, I'm here, and we're still moving forward. Sometimes people ask me if I'm going to get another dog someday, or if I worry about the future when Cooper is older and slower. I smile, and I tell them, he's not just a dog. He's my reminder of everything I've survived, everything I've learned, and everything I'm capable of loving. I can't replace that. I can't forget that, and I don't want to. 1 year later, I know this story isn't just about fear, or drinking, or mistakes. It's about resilience. It's about the bond between humans and animals. It's about the power of love. The kind that waits, that watches, that nudges, and sometimes, quite literally, saves a life. And as I sit here now, Cooper lying beside me, I reach over to scratch behind his ears. He sighs contentedly, stretches his legs, and then he pauses. His ears perk up. He stares at the door with an intensity I haven't seen in a while. I freeze, following his gaze. My heart quickens. I don't know what he's sensing. I don't know if it's real or if it's just his instincts kicking in. My mind races with questions, and then, slowly, he gets up and moves toward the door, tail stiff, eyes locked on something beyond my sight. I grab my phone. I grab the leash. I follow him, heart pounding. Cooper. What is it? I whisper, voice trembling. He doesn't answer. He doesn't bark. He just stares, alert, unwavering, as if he's discovered something only he can see. And in that moment, I realize, maybe this isn't the end of our story. Maybe there's something else waiting for us. Something I don't understand yet. Something that will test us again. I take a deep breath, clutching him close. Whatever comes next, I know one thing for certain. We'll face it together. And maybe, just maybe, it's going to change everything again.